Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel again. Um, if I said the wrong day on my first part one of my YouTube channel, I made it say July the 26th, but um, forgive me on that. Charge it to my head, but not to my heart. Um, I meant July the 25th. That's what I recorded it. The last part one of that message that I was speaking on, and but today is July the 26th, which is Sunday evening, uh, about 4:26 p.m. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna read to you First Samuel that has been on my heart. First Samuel 27, I believe, 27 and 1 through 12. When smart people makes foolish decisions. I'll say that again. Part 2 of when smart people make foolish decisions. Now, let's read 1 Samuel 27, 1 through 12. 1 Samuel 27, 1 through 12. And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of Philistines, and Saul should despair of me, to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hands. 2. And David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that there that were with him unto Achish, and the son of Maacah, king of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, and he and his men, and every man with his household. Even David with his own 2 wives, and Ahinoam and Jezreelis, and Abigail, and Carmitis, and Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David was fleed to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish, If I have now found grace in thy eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thou servant dwell in the raw city with thee? 6. And then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertained unto the kings of Judah unto this day. 7. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 4 months. 8. And David and his men went up and invaded the Gishites and the Gizrite and the Amalekites, for those nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to Shir, even unto the land of Egypt. And David smote the land, and left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep, and the oxen, and the asses, and the camels, the apparel, and returned, and came to Achish. And Achish said, Whether have ye made a road today? And David said, Against the south of Judah, against the south of Jerahmeelites, and against the south of Kenites. And David saved neither man nor woman alive, to bring tidings to Gath, saying, lest they should tell on us, saying, So did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. And Achish believed David in saying he had made his people Israel utterly to outhear him. Therefore he shall be servant forever. I just read to you 1 Samuel 27, 1 through 12. My part 2, it's a little hot. Part 2 of my message, when people make when smart people make foolish decisions. I believe that's right. Yeah. When smart people make foolish decisions. Let me take these things off. I was using these just for my reading to broaden up my words. I read the introduction to you on the first part 1 of that message spoken. Is a little lengthy. I'm gonna read it to you again as fast as I can. The introduction is, I want us to place ourselves in David's sandals for just a moment. You were told as a teenager that you was going to be the next king of Israel. Samuel, the old man of God, came and anointed us for that office. The next thing we know, we are in the royal palace playing and singing for the king. Remember, place yourself in his sandals or his shoes. Then, like a whirlwind, one activity after another took place in our lives that brought us to national preeminence. We killed Goliath with a single stone thrown from your sling. We were promoted in the army and made the captain over 1,000 men. A lot of men. We married the king's daughter and were best friends with the king's son. It seemed that every event or episode in our lives were bringing us ever closer to the day when you would step up and claim the throne of the land as your own. Then things began to happen. Cracks began to appear in the perfectly constructed life we enjoyed so much. We fell out of favor with the king, and he even tried to kill us or you. Your relationship with your wife came to an end. We could no longer fellowship with Jonathan, our best friend. We were devoted and lost our position in the army. The things we know, we are a fugitive running for our very life from an insane king who is determined to take our life. Yet, even as we run from our enemy, we continue to carry ourselves well. Put yourself in their shoes. We spare his life when the opportunity or chance to kill us is virtually handed to you or us. My bad. We know compassion when dealing with others we could have destroyed out of hand, or could have been destroyed out of hand. We even continue to seek God's direction for our lives, believing that someday his promises for our lives will all be fulfilled or accomplished. Then one day something changes. Thank God for change. You awake as usual, but somehow the world is different today. For the first time, it looks like God may have forgotten all about us. It looks like our enemies will eventually prevail. We become discouraged, dismayed, disillusioned, and find ourselves trapped in the pit of hopelessness. Such crisis. While we are in that state of despair or dismay, we made a foolish decision that alters or causes the course of our life to go wrong. Brings you trouble that we could never imagine and leaves us broken spiritually. That, in a nutshell, is the life of David to this point. David was on the fast track to the kingdom, and now he is a fugitive on the run. Remember, it's an introduction. I told you it was going to be a little lengthy, but we'll get to our point. Take up where we left off. That's what I mean. Our text finds David haunted and hounded and haunted. He is defeated and discouraged and depressed. While he is in that condition, he makes a foolish decision that will produce some very serious consequences in his life. David decided to give up on God's plan for his life. Wow. He decided that somehow God must have forgotten about him. He decided that God's plan for his life had failed. David took his own life in his own hands and began to live for himself as he wanted to live. And as I think, or as we think, of the life of David, I see and we see in him a portrait of many believers I have met over the years or over the past few months. David pictures people who have been saved by the grace of God and who began their walk with God very well. But somewhere along the way of the line, things didn't go as they had envisioned or as it seemed. They began defeated, dismayed, delusioned, and discouraged, uncomfort. In their weakened spiritual condition, they made a terrible decision that had terrible consequences in their life that they are still paying for. Don't that sound like us? Instead of staying close to the Lord and following his will in their lives, they choose to walk away from God, which is a terrible thing, and live lives of carnality and compromise. They made a tragic decision and paid a high price. Today, I would like to speak on the thought when smart people make foolish decisions. This is a part 2 of my message from yesterday, I believe, that I uploaded. My first outline was taken from 1 Samuel 27:1. The reason for David's decision. But now let me take off where I left off. I'm on part C now. I'm on outline C. That David reached the wrong conclusion because David listened to his heart. And when you listen to your own heart and not be led by God, we will tend to get off on the wrong track in life that will cause us consequences where we have to pay for it. And believe me, I know, and you as well. David, he chose, I'm sorry, I'll pick myself up. He chose to abandon the path of life God has placed him on years before. He decided that he would be better off fleeing the land of the Philistines, where he thought he would be safe from King Saul and didn't seek help from the Lord. When you decide on your own way and do your own thing and don't seek help from the Lord and think in your heart that God has forgotten about us, when he haven't forgotten about us, when God still has us on his mind every single day, every hour and every minute and every second, God has us on his mind. Even though we go through this crisis and this pandemic and going through this debate of the Congress in the House, the president say one thing and the Congress say one thing, and we got this battle in the White House where they want to take a long vacation and go off and then come back and then think about passing out stimulus checks. But I come by to tell you today, we have to keep our trust in the Lord, which I will sing that after I get offline. Okay. Let me talk to you. I'm talking to you. I want to make this plain and clear. And he decided that he would be better off fleeing of the land of the Philistines, where he thought he would be safe from King Saul. Now imagine the future of King Israel running to the arch enemies of God to beg for help. Imagine them running to the king, running from their enemies, the arch enemies, to beg for help from God. That's the kind of trouble David's heart got himself into. Running. Don't run from your enemy. Pray for them, love them,